What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Dude Hine Show. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about the really disappointing loss the Bengals had on Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to be talking about what went right, what went wrong. Also going to be talking about a couple of different teams here, if they are pretenders or contenders, and also briefly talking about the Matt Rhule firing in Carolina. Let's go ahead and get started here. So the Bengals, on Sunday night, they lose 19-17 to the Baltimore Ravens. This game was so freaking frustrating because if you saw my video last week, or really if you've ever heard me talk about Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens offense just one single time, every single thing that I said last week and I say all the time, what happened on Sunday night. The Bengals played so freaking amazing on defense. They took the rushing game away from Lamar Jackson, and they made him pass the ball, and it made the Bengals have a high percentage chance to win, but unfortunately our offense could not get going. But I thought our defense played great, and it's just so frustrating. This defense has played absolutely amazing this season. In 5 games so far, the Bengals defense have not allowed more than 20 points in the game. That is insane. And the fact that we are 2-3, even though the defense has not allowed more than 20 points, is absolutely ridiculous. But when you look at this game, we just played the Baltimore Ravens so good on defense. We only allowed 1 touchdown against the Ravens, who had one of the best offenses heading into this game. And don't let the stats fool you. When you look at Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, Jackson was 19-32, 174 touchdown and a pick. He was not good passing at all, and that's what you wanted if you're the Bengals. You wanted him to pass and not run. But don't let the stats right here, 12 rushing attempts for 58 yards. That is very, very deceiving because in the Baltimore Ravens' final drive, he had 30 rushing yards. So he really only had about 25, 30 up until the final drive of the game, where they're just trying to get in field goal range for Justin Tucker to make the game-winning field goal like they did. But, Mark Andrews, he was, we weren't really able to contain him. 8 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown. That was their only touchdown of the game, but overall, I thought our defense played great. I don't know what more you could possibly want from our defense. I think they're top 5 right now. They are just playing lights out. It's just so crazy to me that they're playing so talented against the Baltimore Ravens and all the other teams they're playing. If you would have told me heading into Sunday Night Football, Lamar Jackson is going to be way worse than normal throwing the football. He's going to have 25 rushing yards heading into the final drive of the game. The Baltimore Ravens are only going to have 1 touchdown. We're going to hold them to 19 points, and we're going to lose? Like, that is insane that the Bengals lose this game against the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, it's crazy to me. And what's even crazier is that this offense. I was talking about the defense, hyping them up. They deserve to be hyped up. They're playing amazing right now. You look at this offense. Joe Burrow was 24 of 35, 217, a touchdown and a pick. T. Higgins got hurt. He hurt his ankle again. He really didn't have any catches at all. This is just so frustrating. When you look at Joe Burrow, he should have better stats than that. He did not play good. He's not played good like people thought he was heading into the season. The play calling has been horrible by the Bengals, but I feel like there is a certain degree where Burrow can step up, and even though with the bad play calling, he can play good. He has not played really good in any game this year. And people, they love to kiss Joe Burrow's butt when he does something good, but when Joe Burrow does something bad, they make excuses for him. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Joe Burrow has just not been himself this year at all. When T. Higgins was out with an injury, it was just so difficult for this offense to get going. Jamar Chase, he had 7 receptions for 50 yards. Honestly, does not even seem like that much. But, when Higgins came out, they double-teamed Chase, and it was just, it was so aggravating that this offense, you still have Boyd, you still have Hurst, who had his best game yet as a Bengal, over 50 receiving yards and a touchdown. It just doesn't make sense to me how this offense could still not get anything going, despite that Chase was double-teamed. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson is double-teamed all the time, but he's still able to get over 100 yards, and this Vikings team was still able to get, a lot of points. This Bengals team, when they took Chase out of the equation, that left Boyd and Hurst, and, should have been mixed in the backfield. He should have had more targets. It just seemed like we were just one-dimensional. We could not get anything going. We tried to do in the pass game, and just nothing worked at all. Joe Mixon finally had his, I would say, breakout game, I guess you would say. 14 rushing attempts for 78 yards. He averaged over 5.5 yards a carry. This is the Joe Mixon we were expecting to see heading into the season. Mixon, heading this game, did not have a single game where he averaged more than 3 yards per carry. Heading into this game, he averaged 2.7 yards per carry in 4 games. He averaged over 5.5 on Sunday. Like I said, Hurst played good. He had 6 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. This offensive line gave up 3 sacks. The majority of the game, the offensive line was good, but there was just a couple of plays here and there. Like, wow, that was really, really bad blocking. And gave up 3 sacks to the Baltimore Ravens defense. But when you look at this offense, it is just so aggravating. I really thought Tyler Boyd was going to have a good game, especially when you look at, when Higgins is out, Chase is nowhere really to be seen because he's getting double coverage. You would think, they have more plays involved for Tyler Boyd, but that was just definitely not the case. This game was just so aggravating because when you look at it, it had a lot to do with coaching. And when you look at the Bengals so far, they're 2-3. And you look at their 3 losses. All 3 of their losses have come on the final play of the game. And it's not a coincidence in those 3 losses that Zach Taylor has been outcoached a ton in those 3 games. You look at week 1 against the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Week 2, that was kind of concerning when he got outcoached by Mike McCarthy big time. And then this past week, he gets outcoached by Hardball. Zach Taylor needs to start picking it up. Play calls are absolutely ridiculous. When you look at this Bengals team, it is 2nd and goal at the 2. Joe Mixon is averaging 5.5 yards per carry. You know what Taylor does? He does the freaking Philly special. That doesn't even make any sense. When your run game is finally getting going, when you finally establish a run at some point this season, it took 5 games for the run to finally get it going, and it finally does, and you do the Philly special instead. This just does not make any sense to me. Joe Mixon on Sunday had his least rushing attempts for the whole season, even though he over doubled his average for yards per carry in any previous game so far this season. The play calling is so frustrating, knowing if Zach Taylor had better play calls, this team could be 4-1, maybe even 5-0. And I don't like to be one of those fans to say, oh, we could have or should have, we should be 5-0. But when you look at it, better coaching, our record would not be this. I guarantee you. Zach Taylor needs to start doing better play calls. I think he needs to, let Callahan have more of a say in some of the play calls as well. But 2nd and goal at the 2, and you do the Philly special. Instead of running at the Mixon, Tyler Boyd gets sacked. Like, that just does not make any sense to me. Something that is so simple, and it makes so much sense. And you try to be all cute and fancy and all that crap, and then it backfires. And that's basically what you get for having a stupidest play call as that. And to think that was not even the dumbest play call on that drive is kind of crazy to me. Because when you're doing 2nd and goal at the 2, and you do a Philly special, and Tyler Boyd gets sacked, that's really bad. But wait, it gets worse. So that 3rd down, they're able to get basically make up the yards back on 3rd and goal, and it's 4th and goal at the 2. And I'm not gonna lie, I wanted the Bengals to go for it because I like teams to be aggressive. I would rather take my chance for a touchdown than 3 points. And when you look at it, I'm not mad we went for it. I'm mad. I'm just outrageous. I'm so freaking frustrated how we went for it. When you look on 4th down, you're thinking, maybe give the ball to Chase or Boyd, Hurst, or, somebody who is reliable. Instead of, throwing the ball or even running the ball when Mixon's averaging 5.5 yards a carry, we do a freaking shovel pass to Stanley Morgan Jr. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Stanley Morgan, for his career, has 5 catches in 39 games. The biggest freaking play up to that point, and you're going to put the ball in the hands of Stanley Morgan Jr., who has 5 receptions in his whole freaking career? This just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what are we doing here? When you have Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, who is playing good, I would rather put the ball in the hands of Trent Taylor before Stanley Morgan. Even Mike Thomas had a nice catch and run early in that game. Joe Mixon, I put the ball in the hands of Smudge Piron before I put Stanley Morgan. Stanley Morgan, the only reason he's on the team is because of special teams. He has 23 career tackles. He has just 5. He only has 15 targets his whole career. So you're going to say, screw it. This is where, we're going to have a good play call. Like, this just doesn't make any sense. And, there's a difference, even if they would have got it. I tell people all the time, just because a play works doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Even if this play worked, it is still ridiculously stupid and one of the worst play calls that Taylor has ever had his whole freaking time in Cincinnati. Like, second and goal with a 2. You should have just ran it with Mixon. He could have scored there. And then it just somehow gets worse when you're trying to put the ball in the hands of Stanley Morgan. You should have ran it on second and goal. You maybe even should have ran it on fourth and goal at the 2. You're giving the ball to Stanley Morgan Jr. before you give the ball to Joe Mixon. We did not run a single time when we were in the goal line. First and goal, we didn't run. Second and goal, we didn't run. Third and goal, we didn't run. And fourth and goal, we had a shuffle pass to Stanley Morgan Jr. This play calling is getting freaking ridiculous. It's when you look at other teams in the NFL, people say, well, coaching doesn't matter a ton. The players have to execute. That is true to a certain degree. But when you have offensive play calls that are just absolutely horrible and the offense can't get anything going, it's not a coincidence the offense can't get anything going if the play calls are absolutely freaking horrendous. Look at the New York Giants right now. The New York Giants have nearly identical roster they had the last season, and they're 4-1 and one of the most surprising teams in the NFL because they had Brian Daboll, an offensive genius who was a major contributor to Josh Allen's development in Buffalo, and he has been a great coach so far for New York Giants. He has great play calls. He's getting the best out of Daniel Jones. This is the best we've ever seen Daniel Jones play in the NFL. And Brian Daboll has had that 5 games with Jones. When you look at Zach Taylor, the coaching is holding this team back. I don't want this to be a situation where you look at the Green Bay Packers, Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. Yes, they did win a Super Bowl, but since that Super Bowl, the Packers have never been back. I don't want this to be a situation where the coaching and the head coach and the play calls hold a great roster and a great quarterback back. And I know I don't really think I'm overreacting because even at times last year, this was something, people stressed over about. Last season, Zach Taylor, you saw a significant improvement compared to the 2020 Zach Taylor and last year, the 2021 team in the Bengals. He had much better play calls, but there were still occasional, wow, that was a really bad play call here and there. But when you look at it, there's no reason this team should be doing this bad on offense. There's no reason the play calls should be this bad. I mean, our defense has not given up more than 20 points in a game, and we're 2-3 right now. The New York freaking Giants have double the amount of wins as the Bengals have 5 games in the season. We have the same record as the Chicago Bears and the Seattle Seahawks. That should not happen. And I've said this before, and I've got lots of hate for it because I don't kiss the Bengals' butt, unlike most people. But when you look at the first 4 weeks, the Bengals were so freaking lucky in the quarterbacks they had to face. They faced Mitchell Trubisky, Cooper Rush, Joe Flacco, and rookie Teddy Bridgewater. 4 average quarterbacks. The Bengals had a great opportunity to go 4-0, even 3-1. And now you have this situation where the Bengals did not get the most of their opportunity. They did not take the opportunity for granted, and they did not use that the best of their ability. If they did, instead of 2-3 right now, maybe we're 4-1, or maybe we're 3-2. But now we're in a situation we're 0-2 in the AFC North right now in the division. We've already lost to the Steelers. We've already lost to the Ravens. We've already lost to the teams last year that we swept. We swept the Ravens last year, and we swept the Steelers last year, and we've already lost to both these teams. And you look at it now, the way the Bengals are playing, it's just very hard for me to see this team being winning the division and maybe being in the playoffs. I'm not trying to overreact, but when you look at this team, we can only lose 4 more games. I mean, we're already 2-3 after 5 weeks. That is ridiculous. That should not be happening. And when you look, we can only lose 4 more games. You look at Cleveland. Cleveland's not great, but I think we'll lose 1 to Cleveland because Kevin Stefanski is 4-0 against Zach Taylor. The Ravens and Steelers, we still have to play them. 2 teams that we've already lost to. We still got to play the Chiefs, the Titans, the Bills, and Buccaneers. I think we're going to lose at least 4 more games, and at the absolute best, that will make us 10-7. And when you look at this AFC, you have to get at least 10 wins to get in the playoffs. This AFC is very good. And now, well, it's it's after 5 weeks. We're 2-3, all that. We'll be fine. It should not have even came to this in the first place. People are saying, "Oh, we'll be fine. Relax, give it time." This shouldn't be happening. It's concerning that this is happening to begin with. The fact that the play calls are this bad, the fact that Joe Burrow has played this bad. The play calls have sucked, but something else like the play calls have been bad, but Joe Burrow has not been playing like he should be playing. And that's concerning. When you get outplayed by Mitchell Trubisky and Cooper Rush, that is a major problem. And it's just so frustrating. This Bengals team is 2-3 right now, and they've really dug themselves into a big hole. Hopefully they get out of it, but the way they're playing right now, I think it's going to be difficult. The play calling has to step up. If the play calling can step up and Burrow can finally get something going, I think we might be all right. I think the defense is playing right now great right now, but there's going to be an eventual time when this defense just has a dud performance and gives up, 30, 35 in a game. And when you look at this Bengals team can't score that 30, 35 a game because they're barely able to get 20. It's just so frustrating. And when you look at this Bengals game between the Baltimore Ravens, it's so aggravating because we played the Baltimore Ravens so freaking good on defense. It's just our play calls were horrendous on offense, and it's so annoying. I think the Baltimore Ravens, I've said it last year, I said it this year. Call me a hater if you want. I am a hater. I'm not even going to lie. 100% am. But when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they are so just overrated. Isn't this another game where Lamar Jackson got bailed out by horrible play for the Baltimore Ravens? The Baltimore Ravens are 3-2 right now. And I'm sure these people, they could be 5-0. With that standpoint, I mean, the people who would say on ESPN and all those networks, the Ravens could be 5-0, the Bengals could be 4-1, but they don't tell you that. When you look at the Ravens, I mean, they blew a 17-point lead against the Buffalo Bills. They blew a 21-point lead against the Miami Dolphins. They should have lost Sunday. We just shot ourselves in the foot, and it was so frustrating that we played that bad. I mean, Lamar Jackson played like crap. I've been critical of Lamar Jackson before, really all the time, and his passes. I did not think he was actually going to pass that bad against the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, he had 2 wide open touchdowns, and he missed both of them. We got very fortunate that those were 2 horrible passes because if, either one of those would have been touchdowns, it might have been kind of clinched the game with how the offense was playing up to that point. But, I mean, it's another game where Lamar Jackson got bailed out. It's another game where even though the Ravens – I mean, they were horrible on offense. Their defense was okay. It's just the Bengals' offense could not get anything going because the play calls were absolutely horrible. This is so freaking frustrating. This team should not be 2-3 right now. So looking at some teams here in the NFL, a couple of pretenders or contenders for the Ravens. I think the Ravens are 100% pretenders. I don't think they're contenders. I just think they're so overrated, kind of like I was saying. I mean, they blew a 21-point lead and a 17-point lead. And heading into this week, where the Baltimore Ravens have only trailed for 13 seconds in 4 games. Okay? I mean, what do you want me to say to that? That's just an excuse to saying they're 2-2. I mean, that's just a good way of saying, they're 2-2. Like, seriously. They're overrated. They're that's something else. Heading into this week, the Baltimore Ravens had on pace the worst pass defense in NFL history. They were giving up 315 passing yards a game, and Joe Burrow threw for 217. Like, that is ridiculous. It's just so frustrating. But I think this Baltimore Ravens team, they got bailed out on Sunday. Jackson got bailed out Sunday. They got fortunate. Zach Taylor's a freaking horrible play caller because right now they would be 2-3 instead of 3-2 right now on the top of the AFC North. But I'm not sold on the Baltimore Ravens at all. I probably want to be sold on the Ravens no matter how good they play this season because with the Ravens, it's all about the postseason to me. When you look at 2011 and 2015, the Bengals win the playoffs in all those years, but people always said, it doesn't matter how good they are until it's the postseason. That's to me with the Ravens. The Ravens are just a team the past 3 or 4 years. When they made it to the postseason, they haven't done anything. But if they make a postseason win, I would be impressed. But right now with the Ravens, I'm just not sold on them at all. The only remaining undefeated team in the NFL after 5 weeks is the Philadelphia Eagles, and they got very fortunate on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray slid. He thought he got a first down, and he didn't because if he would have got a first down, they could have spiked the ball, maybe did another play or so, but the play clock ended up being 4th down, and they could not have spiked it, so they kicked the field goal, and they missed it. They would have maybe had more yards and more time to kick the field goal, maybe won. Philadelphia might not have won this game. Philadelphia is very interesting to me. Like I said, they're the only 5-0 team right now. I'm going to say they're pretenders. I want to see how they play in a couple more weeks. Like, I think they're good right now, but I think we see this a lot when teams start off really hot and really good, and they just kind of fizzle out. Eventually they'll lose like a couple games or something like that. This just kind of happened with Arizona last year. Arizona, for 4 or 5 weeks, one of the best teams in the NFL last season. And then, yes, Kyler Murray did get hurt, but even after he came back from injury, they just did not look the same. So to me, I'm still not 100% sold on the Eagles. Give it maybe 2 more weeks, then I will be sold. But it's interesting because, I mean, when you look at some of these teams, like I said, they start out good, but then they kind of fizzle out. They don't play as good. But kind of toward middle of November, beginning of December, those are to me kind of when you show, like when you see like the best teams, like whoever's playing the best in the middle of November, early December, those are the teams who to me I think are kind of contenders here. And then you have the Buffalo Bills, pretenders or contenders, 100% contenders. I don't think it's a hot take to say the Bills might be the best team in the NFL right now. It's so crazy to me when you look at the Bills on Sunday against the Steelers. Mike Tomlin put Kenny Pickett in a horrible situation. Mike Tomlin was one of the best head coaches in the NFL. I don't know why he decided to put Kenny Pickett, start him in that game against Buffalo. It was a disaster from the word go. It just did not make any sense. He was doomed to fail. You knew he was going to fail. But this Buffalo Bills offense was just incredible to me. I mean, Josh Allen had like 350 passing yards by halftime against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, it is insane. Yes, the Bills defense is the best in the NFL, and they only gave up 3 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not shocked that they only gave up that many points, 3-10, something like that, 3-7-10. I was kind of expecting that from Pittsburgh. When you look at Pickett, a guy who hasn't really played much and had a couple of picks a week prior and only 13 passing attempts against the New York Jets. But this Bills team, I think is the best team in the NFL right now. I don't think it's that close. I really think there's a decent gap between first and second in the NFL right now. I think the Bills are probably the best team in the NFL. They are 100% contenders. They just look so good on both sides of the ball. They have the best defense. I mean, Josh Allen to me is probably a top candidate for MVP right now. I mean, he's just been playing out of his mind as of late. But looking at here, kind of some interesting news yesterday. I don't think it's that shocking because, there was rumors about it the past couple of weeks, and now it finally happened. The Carolina Panthers fired their head coach, Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule, when he signed to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers with 7-year contract, $62 million. He still has to be paid $40 million. It's absolutely crazy to me. Matt Rhule was 11-27 as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And this is wild. And it goes back to what I said. Every single year is a team or two who starts off pretty good and then absolutely sucks for the rest of the season. Last season, the Carolina Panthers sort of 3-0. Since then, there's 3-19. Like, that is insane to me. Yes, the Panthers, they have Mayfield, who's extremely overrated, not as good as people think. They have a inconsistent offensive line, but they should not be this bad. I mean, DJ Moore is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. McCaffrey, when he's healthy, is a top 3 running back in the NFL. They should still be able to win more than 3 games in a 22-game stretch. I wouldn't be shocked if Matt Rhule maybe takes the Nebraska job at the end of the season. I think he'll go back to college, one of these top tier programs. Maybe Arizona State. They fired Herm Edwards recently. But when you look at the Panthers, somebody interesting is to look out for is Sean Payton. If Sean Payton goes to this Panthers team, they can get a quarterback. I mean, with Artie McCaffrey, and then you have DJ Moore, it could be very interesting if Sean Payton ends up going to the Carolina Panthers and he has to face his former team in the Saints, division rivals and everything like that. But not a shocking fire here with Matt Rhule. It's kind of expected. Kind of needed to be done. It was the right move by Carolina. It'll be interesting to see how they play now, especially, when you look at Carolina, Mayfield is going to be out the next couple of weeks. So they have P.J. Walker, which is interesting. P.J. Walker, pretty much the only reason he was signed with Carolina is because Matt Rhule was the head coach at Temple when P.J. Walker played at Temple. So you don't know how much longer P.J. Walker will be on the team, since the main reason he was on the team is because of the familiarity with him and Matt Rhule during his time at Temple. But it'd be interesting to see who Carolina picks up as their next head coach. But on this video, kind of talked about the Bengals and Ravens review on Sunday Night Football. It's just so aggravating. Bengals lose, drop to 2-3 on the season. Talking about some pretenders and contenders here. Talking about the firing of Matt Rhule with the Carolina Panthers. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new to the channel or we've seen videos before, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Like I said, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hein Show.